Well, butter my biscuit, Dolly here, switchboards LIT. We got stories backed up. Today's theme is petty revenge, sugar, and I do mean petty. We're talking cigarette butts, deleted game profiles, and windshield washer fluid deployed as a weapon. 5 calls queued up, so let's not waste a second. First up, darling, we got a fella on the second floor who got real tired of his upstairs neighbor turning his balcony into an ashtray. He did not complain to management. He collected evidence in a pasta sauce jar. I'm patching this one straight through to Hank.
Hank Hill speaking.
Hank, honey, I got a balcony dispute for you. Neighbor flicking cigarette butts downstairs, burn mark on the rug, and the most satisfying building inspection you ever heard of. It's all yours.
A balcony dispute.
All right, I'm listening. So there's this fella, lives in one of those apartment stacks like a layered cake of folks living on top of each other, which is already not how God intended, and the fella directly above him keeps just flicking his cigarette butts right off his balcony and onto this man's patio below him. Now, I personally smoke Dale's cigarettes sometimes, and even Dale knows you don't just fling your butts onto a neighbor's property. They'll at least hide 'em in a conspiracy theory pamphlet first. That's basic Texas courtesy right there. So this fella goes up there real polite-like, knocks on the door, and tells the man his cigarettes are landing on his balcony and burning up his outdoor rug. And the upstairs neighbor, I want you to hear this, shrugged and said, maybe the wind blows 'em sometimes. Sweet Lord, maybe the wind. That ain't a wind issue, that's a character issue. Bobby once knocked a football into Con's yard and went straight over there and apologized face to face. He was 11 years old. This grown adult man cannot take responsibility for his own cigarette butts. That boy ain't right. So our fella, and I respect this, I truly do, he stops cleaning 'em up. Instead, he starts saving 'em in one of those old pasta sauce jars. Keeps photographing the damage, too. The burn mark on the rug, the ash on the floor, just quietly building his case like a sensible Texan, which this man clearly is in spirit even if he's not from Texas. I tell you what, that is the kind of methodical thinking I respect. Peggy once kept a log on Dale for 3 weeks when he kept blowing lawn clippings onto our driveway. Documentation is a love language in Arlen. Now here's where the Lord provides. The building management sends out a notice that they're doing balcony inspections that Friday on account of fire hazard complaints. This man does not clean a single thing. He leaves the ash, the rug, the burn mark, and he puts that jar of cigarette butts right on the patio table like a centerpiece at a dinner party. A jar of cigarette butts as a centerpiece? Now, I have been to some of Bill's cookouts where the presentation was questionable, but even Bill would not do that. That is a bold decorating choice, and it worked. The property manager comes by, sees the rug, sees the photos, sees that jar, apparently just stares at it for a good long second, then heads upstairs. About 15 minutes later, that upstairs neighbor's balcony door slams so hard it rattles the floor below. And by that evening, the man had one of those little metal ashtray canisters clipped right to his railing. He knew where the butts were supposed to go the whole time. Well, I'll be. Turns out a fine is a better teacher than a conversation with a grown adult, which is just sad, dadgummit. Now look, in Arlen, this situation never gets to a jar of cigarette butts on a patio table. You know why? Because when your neighbor comes to your door with a burn mark complaint, you say, yes, sir, I apologize, that won't happen again, and you mean it. That is the social contract, that is civilization. This upstairs fella had the ashtray clipped the whole time. He had the equipment. He just lacked the decency to use it until money was involved. That's the kind of thing that happens when people stop caring about their neighbors and start treating apartment living like it's every man for himself. Bobby knows better. Heck, even Con knows better, and Con is difficult. You live stacked on top of people, you owe 'em basic respect. Should have been common sense. Clean burnin', no ash on anybody's rug. That fella needs to apologize to his downstairs neighbor, buy him a new rug, and take a long, hard look at his life choices. I tell you what.
Love that, man. All right, next call is a real feel-good one. A school bully runs into the wrong person at a bakery counter, and the sweetest revenge is just 3 little words, do I know you? Letting Uncle Snoop handle this one.
Uncle Snoop here, what's cracking?
Snoop, baby, I got a story about standing up for a friend without throwing a single punch, just a blank stare and a muffin. You're gonna love it.
A blank stare and a muffin. Now that's an art form, nephew. Go ahead. So we got this person, right, went to one of those strict Catholic schools, the kind where everybody knows everybody's business, and they had a real close homie, let's call him Dave. Dave was a trans dude, living his truth, going by his name and his pronouns. Good people, into art, doing his thing. That right there is somebody walking in their purpose, nephew. The universe respects that frequency. You vibrate at your truth, the right people find you. Dave was already winning before this story even starts. Now there was this other dude at the school called him Brad, and Brad made it his personal mission to make Dave's life difficult, misgendering him, saying foul things, just being a source of real negative energy in somebody's life for no reason except smallness. Brad wasn't bullying our storyteller much. He just chose Dave as his target. That's cowardice dressed up as cruelty. Nah, hold up. You spend your school years depositing that kind of darkness into somebody's life, the universe is already writing your invoice, because Brad didn't know it yet, but karma was already clocking in for overtime. Fast forward, our storyteller walks into this British bakery, Greg's. Apparently that's a whole institution over there. Bless their hearts. And who's behind the counter wearing the uniform, ready to take their order? Brad. Same dude, working the pastry line, and he lights up like he thinks they're old friends, goes, "Hey, you all right?" "Oh, that's cold, cuz. Not what Brad did. What's about to happen to Brad? The universe served this one up on a silver tray, or a pastry tray. Same thing." And our storyteller just looks at him, real calm, real peaceful, and says, "Sorry, do I know you?" Brad tries to explain, names the school, says they went together, and our person just gives him this look like he's a stranger asking for bus directions. The whole family is standing right there trying not to lose it. Brad goes, "Oof, awkward, haha." Then they walked out with the muffin. You already know, the muffin was the cherry on top of that whole beautiful moment, left with the baked goods and their dignity. That's how you exit a scene, nephew. See, here's what I know about karma, nephew. It doesn't arrive loud. It doesn't show up with a sledgehammer. Sometimes it shows up as a blank look in a bakery while you're wearing a name tag. Brad spent years putting out a frequency of cruelty towards somebody just trying to live, and when the universe finally sent him the receipt, it wasn't a fight, it wasn't a confrontation. It was silence, a slow blink, and a muffin being purchased. That is a spiritual level response, because you can't teach that. You either got that peace or you don't. Dave's out here thriving at art school. Brad's out here saying, "Oof, awkward, haha" to somebody's back. The math worked itself out just fine. That's a blessing disguised as a pastry purchase, and I respect every single layer of it. For shizzle.
That one had flavor. Okay, honey, this next one is a wild ride. A man in Zambia, a divorce text, corn liquor, and the most unhinged use of a shared Apple account I have ever heard. Gordon is going to have a field day.
Gordon here. What is it?
Gordon, darling, I've got a divorce story involving a man alone in the African wilderness, village corn liquor, and a deleted Angry Birds profile. I need your full attention on this one.
A deleted Angry Birds profile. Right, go on then. So there's this man, not a bad man, complicated man, out in rural Zambia doing some kind of community project. No reliable power, no reliable signal, the kind of conditions where you'd send a junior chef to toughen them up. And his wife back home in Europe, perfectly comfortable, sends him a breakup text. Through the phone, a text, ending a marriage via text message. That is the emotional equivalent of serving a Michelin-starred guest a microwave-ready meal in a styrofoam box. Zero technique, zero respect, absolutely no presentation whatsoever. Now, these two have been competitive their whole relationship, scoreboard on the wall for card games, competing over who walked more steps in a day. Apparently, the man once ran laps around the flat while she went to the shop just to win a step count. That's not romance. That's a team of line cooks trying to out-prep each other on a Saturday service. Chaos. Delicious chaos, but chaos. Bloody hell. That's the kind of couple that either ends up married 40 years or absolutely destroys each other. There is no in-between. No medium rare here. It's either perfectly cooked or it's on fire. So he receives this text and does not, I stress, does not handle it with grace. He gets hold of some local corn liquor, which I imagine tastes like a solvent with ambitions, and sends her a barrage of very unpleasant messages. She responds by freezing their joint bank account in rural Zambia, where getting to a working ATM is already a minor expedition. Freezing a man's account when he's in the middle of nowhere, that is not just cold, that is criminally underseasoned as a human being. You don't do that. That's removing the gas from the stove, mid-service. People are going hungry because of your pettiness. And then, lying under a mosquito net, drunk, one eye working at maybe 60%, he opens his phone, gets a signal, and finds Angry Birds, their shared account. She's been playing while he's been dissolving in the wilderness. Higher scores, higher ranks, moving up while he's falling apart. And so with all the precision of a man who has absolutely nothing left to lose, he deletes her entire Angry Birds profile. All of it, gone. Then he changes his username to, and I quote, "Forget you be," only more direct than that. That is the most extraordinary use of poor signal in the history of petty revenge. 1 bar of mobile service, 1 deleted profile, surgical, devastating. I've seen less focused execution from trained chefs on a full 8 hours of sleep. Right, listen carefully. This whole story is what I'd call a dish that started with incredible ingredients and then got left unattended on a high flame. Both of them, both talented, competitive, clearly in love once, and they let it boil down to nothing but bitterness and a deleted mobile game profile in the African bush. In my kitchen, when a relationship starts burning, you turn down the heat. You don't send a breakup text and freeze the accounts. You don't get blind drunk on grain alcohol and nuke someone's Angry Birds. You have a conversation, you plate it properly, and you either serve it or you close the kitchen with dignity. Neither of them did that. What they served at the end, raw, both of them, completely raw. I wouldn't give it 1 star. He says he's slightly more mature now and doesn't drink anymore. Good, because that corn liquor was clearly not doing his decision-making any favors. You muppet, both of you.
Oh, my stars. All right, Sweet Pea, we're moving on. Next story is a custody battle, a shared Netflix account, and the most technically precise act of television sabotage I have ever encountered. I think Morgan is the right soul for this one.
Hello, Dolly.
Morgan, honey, I have a story of quiet suffering, a man who misses his children, and the very specific revenge of moving a little red progress bar on a Netflix episode. It's a subtle one, felt like yours.
A red progress bar. How extraordinary. Please, do continue. There is a man. He is going through a divorce. Not the quiet kind. The loud, adversarial kind, with lawyers and court dates and custody hearings that have not yet resolved. He has not seen his children in some time. This is the weight he carries into every morning. What he did not know, when he first sat down at his computer, was that he was about to invent an entirely new category of human spite. One must pause to consider the creativity born of heartbreak. The streaming account remains shared, not out of sentimentality, but because the children still use it, and he is thoughtful enough to preserve that. His soon-to-be former wife has been rather unkind to him across various corners of the internet. And so, when the darkness gets heavy enough, he opens the account and finds whatever television program she is currently watching. And here, dear listener, the story turns. He has discovered something, a small red line, a progress bar, and he has learned that he can move it. He advances the progress bar on her current episode to the very end as though she has already watched it, then moves to the next episode and positions it to look as though she is partway through. She, presumably pouring a glass of something and settling in for the evening, picks up where she believes she left off, watches an episode she has apparently already seen according to the algorithm, sometimes watches another, then goes back, confused, starts again from the beginning. The human capacity for precision, when the target is sufficiently personal, is truly boundless. This man has not misused the account. He has simply introduced a small, elegant variable into her evening viewing experience, repeatedly. He describes it as cathartic. He does not say it fixes anything. He does not say it brings his children back. He says quietly that it helps. And then he goes back to waiting for the court's decision, carrying that weight alone. One must sit with that for a moment. The image of a man watching a progress bar, because it is the one small thing, in a situation full of large immovable things, that he can still move. Consider what this story actually is, beneath the surface of a petty revenge thread. It is a portrait of a man reduced to affecting a small red line on a streaming service, because that is the only lever left available to him. He has lawyers. He has a case. He believes he will prevail. And yet, each night, when the weight becomes too much, he opens a laptop and nudges a progress bar. Not out of malice, exactly. Out of the very human need to feel that something, anything, responds to his touch. That is not pettiness in the usual sense. That is grief wearing a very thin disguise. The great river of consequence flows quietly here. No drama, just a man, a screen, and a small act of presence in a life that currently feels absent. I hope the court rules quickly, and I hope someday both of them find something better to watch.
Well, Morgan Freeman just made a Netflix story feel like a Terrence Malick film, and I am not okay. All right, darling. Last call of the day. Somebody got cut off on the highway, deployed their windshield washers as a weapon, and two ladies in a convertible got a full facial. The Rock is on the line, and he is ready.
Finally, The Rock has come back to the receptionist's desk.
Rock Sugar, I got a highway road rage story with a convertible, a near side swipe, two ladies who flipped the bird, and a windshield washer fluid ending that is chef's kiss. This one was made for you.
A convertible, top down. The Rock is already raising one eyebrow. Talk to me. So we got a regular person driving to work, minding their business in the middle lane, starting to pass somebody, and a woman in a convertible VW Beetle, top fully down, decides she also wants that lane. Right then, no signal, no warning, just launches herself into the space where this person's car is currently existing and leaves about enough room between them for a sheet of paper. The Rock's eyebrow just raised so high it nearly left the Rock's face entirely. You don't merge into an occupied lane with the top down. That is not a driving decision. That is a villain origin story. Our person, very calmly, The Rock respects this, gives a short little beep. Not aggressive, just a hey, that was close, watch it. A reasonable beep, a people's champion beep. And what does the driver do? She slows down, her and her friend flip the bird. Both of them, double bird, top down convertible, wind in their hair, flipping off someone they nearly sideswiped. The audacity is on a pay-per-view level. It doesn't matter what mood you're in on the highway. You do not flip off the person you nearly took out. That is jabroni behavior of the highest order. The millions and millions of people who drive to work every day are disgusted. Now here is where the universe and the laws of highway physics stepped in. A couple of miles up the road, our hero passes them again. They weren't even paying attention, but when the convertible catches up, that driver gets right up on their bumper, flashing lights for zero reason. Now at this point, our person decides the windshield needs cleaning. The Rock says, correct decision. Can you smell what the windshield washer system is cooking? Because at highway speed with the top of that car completely open to the sky, the spray went over the roof and delivered approximately a full pint of washer fluid directly to those two ladies. A complimentary full facial at 70 miles per hour. They backed off immediately. Funny how that works. The Rock has no further questions. Oh, we are not done because The Rock wants to be very clear about what just happened here. This person did everything right. They beeped politely, they didn't escalate, they didn't chase, they just drove. And then when the universe set up the perfect physics equation, convertible top down, tailgating at speed, washer fluid at full pressure, they simply cleaned their windshield. That's it. That is all they did. The Rock cannot be held responsible for what the weather decided to do at that particular moment in that particular lane. Now, the two ladies with the double bird salute and the sudden interest in our hero's bumper, they made a series of choices, and those choices led them, naturally, to a free car wash from the outside in. Know your role on the highway and keep your top up. Just bring it. Oh, wait. They did. That was the problem. The Rock has spoken. If you cut off The Rock on the highway, The Rock doesn't get angry. The Rock simply ensures his windshield is spotless. And then The Rock drives away.
Ha! That is 5 stories down, and Dolly's switchboard is finally quiet for the evening, honey. What a day. We had cigarette butt evidence jars, bakery blank stares, deleted Angry Birds profiles, Netflix progress bar warfare, and one very well-timed windshield wash. I hope you enjoyed every single minute, sugar. Now y'all be sure to comment who Dolly should bring on next. 100 votes, and they get the job, hon. See you on the next call, darling.